This is Jeremy Warner with ETHOSystems. I'm a Sage 300 consultant. I recognize a couple names on here, Abel and Kim, and the other two names, Kevin and Ron. Hello. Ron Schaefer, that name looks familiar as well, and possibly Kevin. So as you know, what you signed up for, we'll be handling the Sage 300 security administration. I'm going to jump over to our demo server where we'll be handling this. My GoToWebinar is on my local workstation. The webinar is set up for attendees not to have audio, not for my, it's just how GoToWebinar handles things. So if there's any questions that you have, I'll definitely monitor the questions or in the chat. If you have anything specific, definitely will address those and answer them accordingly. And with that being said, I'll get going here. And also this is recording now, so we'll send this out to you and anyone that, everyone that has registered for the event. I did share my screen, so you guys should be good. Like I said, name's Jeremy Warner, Sage Certified Consultant, been with ETHOSystems, formerly Cornerstone Solutions, since 2005, going on my 19th year here. You can feel free to reach out to me at any time at jeremy.warner@ethosystems.com or my mobile cell phone number there. We'll send this Word document out to the group as well. And what I have been doing is Calendly, if that ever comes to it, where you need a meeting here. So this is just our cover page that I put together, or Jen put together, and I put together with my contact. So we're just going to go down this list. I'll first start by saying, as I go through this, I always tell clients, whether we're talking security or not even talking security, I never mention client names, but I will give examples of good examples throughout the years since 05, right? That I've had conversations with clients that I pass those examples to other clients, such as you, who's registered on this, to see where you can benefit from those stories, right? And questions. And like I said, this is all of my recommendations through my experience. There's not a, we'll call it there's not a perfect porridge, if you will, because as similar as all clients that I work with, you know, from the construction world are, you know, everyone has their own different internal relationships, if you will, when it comes to, you know, their employees, how the number of employees, the limit of amount of employees, what have you. So I'll touch more on that of why I brought that up. First thing I want to talk about is implementing strong password policies. I'm going to log into Sage here right now. So some of these things will be things that you may say, oh yeah, I mean, we already do that, or we already do this. But as we go through this, hopefully there's situations that I explain here that will take you to your handling, reviewing your security in your own world. Because just the fact that you know, everyone that registered for this, I'm going to do a little brown nose in here, but that's kudos to everyone on here and who had registered, because that tells me that they're interested in at least reviewing their security, right? And use this as a stepping stone to gear you up for a review. It has seemed in years past, I mean, auditors have always been around since I started, right? But just even from a security aspect, I've had requests from clients for auditors saying, hey, I need this security report. Hey, what users can access this company? What users, hey, what duties do they have in the software? So we'll definitely get into that detail. Right now, as you can see, I just have the sample data here. We're not looking at any client data. I'm just going to jump into Timberline Construction, and to access security, which you very well may know, it's just through the Sage desktop under Options, Security Administration. There are a couple clients, again, never mention clients who they are, that don't have security on. You know, we can only go so far as saying, hey, you need to turn this on, right? That's up to the client. We can't force you to turn anything on, but there are a couple that do not have security and that also have turned on security within the given year. So just even something along those lines. And when those, whether it's new clients setting up security or a new implementation, the first thing that you set up is security settings. We'll certainly get into users and role setup, but under security settings, I would recommend even for existing users, jump in there and see, hey, where is your password setting at? Because this could have been, when I say could have been, very well set up one time 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you haven't looked at it since. So you can always adjust your password settings. As you can see here, we have it set to strong. I've had plenty of clients that, when I say balk at something like this, I don't want to have my users go through this and change the password every 90 days. Well, as we all know, I've seen, even if it's trying to get on your network, right, and multi-factor authentication, things of that nature, I've become, it's second nature to me to log onto a computer client, get on my app on my phone, even though we're not talking network security on this meeting, we're talking Sage 300. It's second nature to me to jump on my phone, click approve that multi-factor authentication. Sage 300 doesn't have multi-factor authentication, but for network, right, you find that you have to do more of a strong password, where there's plenty of clients which maybe on this call, not that I know, but could have it set to weak. Again, we can't force you to set it to strong, but even here, if you're on weak, I would say at least inch up the ladder, right? At least up to medium to get some of these special characters or uppercase characters, right? So that one I would definitely say at least get to medium, but overall a strong password is the recommended. Now, with that being said, you can certainly jump up to custom. As you may notice, the strong and custom, the default custom is the same as strong. So if you want to come into custom password settings, you can certainly change these, expires, every 180 days. I mean, that's you talking with your accountants, your auditors, what they would, if they have anything or ownership, right, of what they want to keep up with industry standards here. So you can certainly customize the strong settings here. I'm going to click cancel here and switch it back to strong where we're at. Down here, as far as the, I think the defaults are set to no, don't lock, right? Be unlocked by administrator, right? I would say that, the default is 3. I would say 3 is a good number, right? If someone's trying to jump into your accounting system, once they've tried 3 times and can't get in, lock them out. With that being said, as far as unlocking user accounts after 5 minutes, now someone with that strong password, we all get it that, hey, our caps lock is on, right? Oh, I shoot, two of the missed passwords were because my caps lock was on and I didn't realize it, right? So it may just be an end user that should be in your software is just simply fat keying the keyboard or caps lock on, what have you. So rather than, trying to get a hold of an administrator if he or she is in a meeting, right? That's why you can unlock the user account after 5 minutes, or bump that up as much as you want. As far as the secured menu settings, I'm going to jump back over here to my Word document, make this point, and then I'll see if there's any questions to this point or anything. Here I just said display versus not display, pros and cons, right? A positive, right, is empower your end users to ask questions to be most efficient. So for a given user role, if you say, hey, this user can only see this number of reports and setup options, but everything else is grayed out. I have seen, actually talking with the controller, I'm going to use her, not mention her name, but use her example. Then this has been retained in my head. I think she used the word empower, so I'm using it here on this call, is that she said, yes, I want my users to look at a report and ask the question, hey, can I use this report? I think this would be, helpful, right? Because I've been doing this report manually this whole time, right? A con, right, of that is, hey, now you're getting multiple questions. Hey, why can't I have it? Complaining, right? When I say complaining, in the sense of now you have to explain why you didn't give that to them. I would lean more towards the empower your users, have the things grayed out, and they know their role going into your company, and have the benefit of the doubt to the employee that they're asking it for a beneficial reason, right? To be more efficient in their day-to-day. So jump back over here. I will say typically, if not that I jump into clients' user settings, but even on an implementation, I do find them saying don't display, right? I recommend to display, but again, to each their own. I just wanted to kind of explain that thought process and have you decide, which route to go. I'm going to jump over here to chat. Don't see any questions. I do see someone else join. Let's jump back over here. I'm going to click OK. Now let's come back over here. Touch security menu settings, creating new users and security roles. So the two default security roles, if you installed Sage at a new client, meaning jumped over to Sage 300, Sage is going to have you determine who are your application administrators right here and your security administrators. I'll send this Word document as well if you need to send this snippet to an auditor, so they know the difference between administrator, application administrator, and security administrator. Again, one example for a client, I'll call it 7-8 years ago, sitting with him, and he said, hey, I want my family that's part of this company, right? I want them to be application administrators, but I want myself to be an application and a security administrator, but I don't want my, family to be a security administrator, because if they say, hey, I don't want them locking out of my own system. I know it's I can't hear you guys, not seeing you're laughing, right? I chuckled at it, but it was a serious tone in a not a joking manner, but right there it clicked in my head. Wow, I'm gonna use that, and I've used this this meeting here and with plenty of other clients, and I'll explain the difference between application administrator and security administrator, because there's many clients out there when going in through security and we're having these discussions, there's plenty of, hey, those check boxes, application and security, because the end user who set up security may not have been informed, or they just wanted to take the easy way setup, give everyone access. But definitely the first thing to review, me not being your auditor, but your Sage 300, hey, who, as I asked here, who are your application, right here, who are your application and security administrators? Because let me jump back over here. In our setup here, I'm going to go into role setup. And in our demo data, Sage, we're going to add some roles here, but this is for us ETHOSystems consultants, so we don't have, this demo server is not our, accounting server, so we don't have our payroll clerk, payroll supervisor, AP supervisor. Just giving you some examples, financial, all access. I'll give you some examples what I find is good, but before I do, back to the application administrator. If someone is an application administrator, you can jump over to users, right? We can see everyone that's a ETHOSystem consultant or salesperson is an application administrator getting into sample data. But if someone's an application administrator, they can record any entry, they can run every single report, they can access all data. Think of that as open eyes to everything. They can turn on audit setup activity. They can even get in here, and as it says here, change security access, where a security administrator, you can turn on and off application security, right? You can deny users access, you can set up new accounts, remove accounts. What I always recommend for being a security administrator, I have an IT background, worked in IT, worked with plenty of IT managers, what have you. The ideal, from my perspective, is an IT controller or IT manager would be a security administrator, but not need to be an application administrator. With that being said, a number of clients come to mind that their IT is very, been working with the company for, since inception or right for a long time, and they trust their IT, right? We always trust IT, right? Like I said, I have IT background, what have you. But hey, does an IT guy need to know payroll information, right? Does an IT need to run financials, right? From from that perspective, I would say no, but there are ones out there that you say, hey, make the IT application administrator and security administrator, depending on how much hands-on. But if it's like an outside IT, I don't see a reason why an outside IT would need to be an application administrator unless they are going, doing upgrades, doing upgrade files. But we could kind of pinpoint that as as the different circumstances come up. So, but going back to that story, a security administrator, the top person says, hey, I want to be both, right? Because I don't want, whether it's family that works there or an IT or anyone, I don't want them deleting me out of my own system. Let me see if there's any questions to this point in chat or questions. I don't see any, but hopefully that, and like I said, just even pointing that out, that's my main point, is identify your application and security administrators. And then from here, right, as far as adding roles, like I mentioned, the next step in our listing here, when we start getting into segregation of duties, the majority, right, of the clients that I work with and we work with are public companies. There are private companies, right, that use Sage, and for private companies, they may have to follow the SOX, like Sarbanes-Oxley, right, to truly, handle the segregation of duty, because they are required to do that. With that being said, I did do this simple Google search, and just under GAAP, right, maintaining controls require segregation of duties. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, all the clients I work with, set their roles up for segregation of duties. That's a customer company decision. That's not for us to make that decision. But my point is, for segregation of duties, that's how you can help derive your roles, right? Examples of segregation of duties, I'm sure you all have some ideas that come to mind. But here, as far as the person who opens the mail and prepares a listing of checks received should not be the person who makes the deposit. So if I come back over here and use that for an example, and we'll just say, AR, we'll just call it AR supervisor. You can shorthand, right? You can shorthand the name, spell out this, or you could type the full name up there. And as far as a supervisor, hey, they have access to, all of accounts receivable. And if I click add, and we'll say AR, spell it out, AR clerk, right? For lack of a better term, now in here for AR, you could start talking, hey, okay, they, can enter cash receipts, right? They can't enter invoices or vice versa. So I would recommend, getting into that segregation of duties, especially for even when you start talking new employees, right? To have a process in place to know, hey, when someone gets hired on, you can tie that, that their role in security to what they'll be doing for your company. There's a number of times where I just see an all access role, right? And that's the only one on there. When I say only one on there, in addition to application and security administrator. So again, that's up to you, but I would lean towards reviewing this for your, breaking out your roles. Now there may be someone at your company, right? And I'm sure there is, and I know there is for different clients. I do throw out this idea, setting up a role called all access, right? Now here, right, they're not an application administrator, right? But we just gave them all access to everything in the system. Now, with that being said, it's just, I would look at this as one level down from the application administrator, where the application administrator, once that finishes, I'll click on application administrator. Actually, rather than wait for that to open up, let's just scroll up here because we have the snippet here. Application administrator, you can change secure menu settings, change user account setting, create roles, and assign user accounts, right? So rather than have someone that should have access to all reports and tasks, just set up an all access, but then they don't get all of these guys here, because we don't want just anyone and everyone to be an application administrator. Let me jump back over here. Let's see if that's saved. And now we have the all access. Look at that as, like I said, one level below the application administrator. One thing I want to, one more point I want to make here in the role setup, and then I'll look to see if there's any questions or examples of what anyone has. When I come back down here to let's do this. Let's do a payroll, right? Payroll clerk. So we come down here and we say, okay, they have access to all of payroll. Now, with that being said, there is within security administrator, where's it at here? Reports and inquiries. So if you give it access to payroll and you try to jump over to payroll and say, hey, where are all my reports and inquiries? Well, your reports and inquiries are broken out in security administrator under reports and inquiries. So I would have to come down here, reports, click the plus sign, scroll down, give payroll reports, scroll up, go down to inquiries, come down here and say payroll inquiries. So now this role, we haven't assigned them, a user to this role yet. We'll call her, Sally, Jim, what have you. That's when you get into the user and the user setup to be assigned to a role. But just from a payroll perspective, right? We clicked here, gave it all the reports and inquiries. One thing I would point out is also maybe I would recommend a payroll clerk doesn't need to get into payroll settings, right? Because payroll settings has things such as, hey, what's the accounting date? Is the accounting date the period end date, or is it the check date? We don't want a payroll clerk, not take anything away from a payroll clerk. We need them, right? They do a great job, but you'd want your payroll manager, what have you, to handle the the settings from that point of view. That I also seen the ODBC, right? Oh, let me just click that ODBC and do save changes, right? What I just did there is not what I'm recommending, but just even from this call, like I said, whether you take one thing, two things, three things, a handful of things from this, and review your application as security administrator and see who has access to ODBC. You may ask, what is ODBC? ODBC is open database connectivity. So if we came in here and went over to users, and me, Jeremy, I know I'm a application administrator and security administrator here, but let's say Jeremy was, myself was, just a payroll clerk, right? I'm actually going to do this here. I'm going to do this add. I'm going to add a new user, and I'm going to call. We're going to use Sally, like I said, right? Sally test, and I'm going to set an initial password here. Username Sally. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to remove Jeremy because, like I said, if I click Mark, I meant to click Sally. Let me click Sally. Click OK. So now Sally is part of the PR clerk role. We gave Sally tasks, setup, reports. That's actually the reports manager. I'll point that out. Rather than have Sally add reports, add or remove reports from the reports menu, you can uncheck that, and payroll settings. And you could obviously go, with a fine tooth and comb, break down the, clerk if you don't want the clerk voiding checks, what have you. But I'm not going to go through, each and every single one of these. Is just more of a conversation piece here to review these things. With that being said, the reason why I wanted to do this is looking at that. Okay, Sally has payroll, has the blanket check mark there, right? We didn't give her access to GL, right, or cash management or anything that. I'm going to click Save Changes. I'm going to close this, close Sage Desktop. And here, let's go Sally has expired. Look at that. So there's our strong right now. There's that. I'm going to add this. Okay. 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 So reason why I wanted to do this, hey, we don't have any companies set up for Sally. We gave her a role, but we don't have any companies. So I'm going to log back in as myself. We're going to go give Sally what companies she can see. And then I'll make my point on the ODBC side of things. Because the ODBC, like I said, open database connectivity, if you, like I said, I've seen plenty of users that have just that ODBC checked. I'm going to go over here to user setup. I'm going to come down to Sally, right? We gave her the role of PR clerk. We didn't give her any companies. I'm going to give Sally Timberline Construction. Another reason going into the companies, you may have your payroll broken out to Timberline Construction or whatever your company is, and then you may have a separate data folder for office salary. So Sally can look at the field guys and gals, right, for pay rates. But hey, we don't want Sally to get into the office payroll. So you can set up your office payroll outside of your main data folder and not give Sally that access there. As far as W-2s, if you've used Atrix for payroll, there's a way to, within Atrix, a slick tool within Atrix to combine both of those data folders into one file so that you can generate W-2s if you decide to break out your office payroll from a security standpoint internally. So I'm going to click save here, close, close. Log back in as Sally. And like I said, just even this meeting, as far as reviewing your settings, right? If you, whether you talk to auditors or just want to do it, on your own, going through all these, checks and balances, if you will here. So if I log in as Sally, right? I try to open up general ledger. It opens up the application. But here, this is where that secured menu settings, right? Everything's grayed out, can't get to anything here. If we had it set to don't display, she wouldn't even be able to get into, these menu items, but at least opening the door to certain fields or certain reports that Sally can say, hey, can I get this report? Because that's going to help me run my payroll reconciliations or my 941s. If there's any specific reports you want to get to, at least Sally can see what's out there. Not saying that she needs to get in financial statements, but she can get to all applications and have it grayed out. Going back to the ODBC, I'm going to close this out. We're not even in Sage right now. I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to open up a blank Excel. Not even talking Office Connector, which is an add-on product where you can query data via ODBC within Office Connector. But like I said, here I'm just opening up a blank workbook. If I was Sally and said, hey, I want to see these financials, right? She could come in here, she or Sam, right? He or she come in here, come over here to other sources from ODBC. And as I make this point, another client, this happened a dozen years ago, I pointed out, hey, you have all these roles for ODBC checked. And not Sally, but the person I was working with, we can come down here to the data source, Timberline data source, that's through 32-bit ODBC administration. If I click OK, bear with me here, we're going to let that load. But that person I was talking to said they won't know how to do that. And my response was, understood, right? I just wanted to bring it to your attention, right? I didn't follow up to see if anyone tried to do what I'm doing here, but just letting you know if there was a disgruntled employee, right? Because they're out there. I've heard horror stories, right? This person can come in here, whether it's cash management, GL. Here, let's do even this. Whether it's GL or cash management, but me coming in and say, hey, how much does their company have in our bank account, right? If I go to bank CM master bank account, right? I'm going to click load. Letting this load here, bear with me. So here, even logging in as Sally, right? I can see the register balance, bank balance, posted CM balance. I'm going to log back into Sage, and that's because we gave Sally ODBC access. Oops, I'm going to log in as me, sorry. Go back into this role setup here. I'm going to go to PR clerk. Even though we didn't give Sally access to the cash management setup bank account or reports, register, what have you, we gave the access to this ODBC. So we don't, my point with all of this, we don't want to give a blanket check mark to ODBC read access. And that ODBC read access, as you can see here, lists out all the different data files, right? My point is we don't want cash management master files ODBC read access, but for a payroll clerk, you know, when they run crystal reports, obviously we were just in Excel, but my point is you can say, hey, the payroll clerk could go payroll master files, you know, anything payroll related from a, you know, crystal report aspect. So I know it does get in there, it's kind of using a fine tooth and comb, but definitely check to make sure your roles don't just have the entire ODBC checkbox checked, because you can, behind the scenes, right, whether it's an employee or someone coming off the street or someone trying to get in there and look at information you don't want them to, they can get to this data via the ODBC. So I'm going to jump back over here and see if there's any chat or any questions with that, but hopefully that was beneficial, right? Just from, at least from a review standpoint. I'm going to click close here and jump back over here to Word. So segregation of duties, we talked about that. Like I said, I'll send this Word document over here. Masking of payroll social security number security feature. Let's use that as a segue for what we just had open here. I'm going to go back into role setup. Here, if I come up to common tasks, the plus sign there, and go to security, you can allow, because right now here you can say view social security numbers. If you have it unchecked, right? So you may want to break out that payroll clerk into payroll, like I said, payroll supervisor, payroll clerk, and determine under common tasks under the security piece here of, hey, do we want to allow them to view social security numbers? I'm going to leave this unchecked, right? Put it back to what it was, right? Unchecked. And then I'm going to close out of here and let's log in as Sally. Okay. Let's jump over here to payroll. Go into set up employee. Click here, and there's the masked social security number there. And that'll flow through on reports and such, but that's a security feature there. If I went, I'm going to do it real quick here. I think you get the point, but I'm going to close, log in as me. I'm going to check that box, and then you'll see that piece there allows them to get in. Role setup, payroll clerk. We're going to say under common tasks. So it hides on you up here, but that's what the demo is for, to point things out like that. So here, if I do view social security numbers, save, close. Let's log back in as Sally here. Almost there, and then we'll move on to the next item. And there we are. So now we're able to modify social security numbers, see social security numbers from Sally's username. All right, so here, let's close that. Let's see if there's any questions. No questions, which is just fine. Oh, I have questions. There is a question there. Sorry about that. I don't know if that just popped up when I was looking at it or it's been there. Let me go through here. When you have a break point, I have questions. Yeah, before we move on to the next thing, I'm good with asking a question now that you have, Kevin. Because we have 22 minutes left. I'm going to talk while you're typing the question. We're going to talk about some security crystal reports that I've had clients request that we're going to that are actually available on the knowledge base. I can certainly have Jen, our marketing manager, and Kirsten, who's our marketing associate, send those along with these documentation as a follow-up to this. But that's going to be my next piece here. So it doesn't show that if you're typing yet. Unfortunately, I can't unmute you. I did request that, but webinar prevents that. So you'll have to put your question in the chat or the where you type the question. While you're typing that, I'm going to move on to that, the security reports, and then I'll peek back there. So thank you, Kevin. Provide and review Sage 300 security crystal reports. I made a note here for internal use, or if your auditors request it. So here I'm going to go out to the knowledge base. If you've been out to the Sage knowledge base before, if you don't have access, we certainly can show you how to get access. Or if you, like I said, we can certainly send these crystal reports to you. You can just email me and I can send them over to you. But literally here, if I just type security reports, I just did this morning. I may have done it, in years past, but it's literally the top result in the knowledge base. Are there security reports that I can use with security administration? Here, scrolling down, these examples, right, for these cliff notes, if you will, or for a docket, everything that you see here is what I took from this to discuss. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to click this security reports.zip. I'm going to click open over to our downloads folder where it came. It comes down as a zip. I'm going to extract. Click extract. And now it gives us all of these different, these are all crystal reports. So if I click close here, close, I'm going to jump back over to Sage Desktop. Sorry for keep logging off and logging back, but switching from Jeremy to Sally. I'm going to come back in here. In preparation for this meeting, I actually did download them, and then I actually deleted them out of the downloads just to show you that step that you can how you can search for that on the knowledge base. You can add these reports to any application that you want. I would recommend if you have Information Assistant, just add them here because the security is not specific to General Ledger or AP, right? It encapsulate everything. I created under Information Assistant here. I created a security reports. You won't see security reports on your side. You'd have to create that. And when I say create that, all you have to do is go up here to Reports Manager, say where we want to add the reports. Like I said, you can absolutely put them in GL if you want, right? I would recommend Information Assistant just because it's a blanket level, if you will. And I already added these guys here. So if I click change, I named it companies. I gave it a menu group, security reports, whatever you want to call it there. I did mark it as a crystal report design. And then I pointed the respective report to the respective report name. Clicked OK. I did all of them except the last two in the mindset that I wanted to add the last two while we're on this call. So the last one was user details. I'm going to jump over here to file name first. I stopped at user details, but here's users by company. So name that, and I'm going to name this users by company. Go here to the menu group. We have security reports. We have to mark it as a crystal report design. Click OK. I'm going to do a new file name. Figured not to have to add a 10 or however many, what is it, 3, 6, 8 reports on this call. I figured to add the last two, but here's users by group. Click list. I'm going to give it the security reports, crystal report design. Click OK. And we're going to click close. So I won't run all 8 of these reports. We have 16 more minutes. So there's just a few more points that I want to make and get back to if Kevin put a question out there or if anyone else did. But under Information Assistant, like I said, literally I think three or 4 months ago, a controller for a client that did their implementation a few years back said, hey, our auditor is requesting security reports. What users can get into this company? What users, task-oriented questions, what have you. So they were doing an audit, a security audit. So immediately when the controller asked, I knew that these security reports were out there on the knowledge base. But here, if I just use that example, users by company, and just start, as we all know, prints to paper. I'm going to do a print preview. So company access for Gold Coast Group, company access for Timberline Construction, right? So we have MP, that's just a mobile reports role or a user setup. Here's Sally, right? Remember we gave Sally only access to Timberline Construction. We didn't give Sally access to electrical, therefore we don't see Sally down here or up here or anywhere up top there, but we do have that. Now I'll run a let's click that. That was that one, users by company, because that company, as you may imagine, right, had multiple companies on their data folder, and they wanted to say, hey, can Sally, can Sue, can Bill, can Johnny, right, get into those respective companies from a auditor security review. I'll go in here to user details, and why do we get? It needs to be upgraded. Oops. Did I run another one? That one. Unless I have it pointing to the wrong report. Let's come down here. Let's do groups. Groups by task. tasks by group. Think of group as the role. We'd run tasks by group. We're getting these messages that they need to be upgraded. Wasn't foreseeing that. The other one ran. Let me run this upgrade crystal report real quick. If you get this on your side, which I wouldn't think you would, but if you do, I can certainly go through this and help you out on that. But it's just, oops. Stop. Where did I put it? Downloads, security reports, open. Bear with me. Sorry, I wasn't planning on that. Here, set this. This is done when you do upgrades. What the heck? Let me try to run another one. I don't want to, like, promise you all those work. I don't know why this those two are acting as if they're not. I'm going to go back to your question, Kevin, which was a groups by task. By task. Okay. Click close. Reports. Information assistant. Groups by task. And we're getting that message. I'm gonna try this one more time, but I promise that we'll get those to work. You saw the one crystal report. I may have to run this as administrator. Specific report or folder. So here, groups by task. Let's see where that goes successfully. No, we're getting some messages here. Well, sorry for that. The one ran, and I actually ran a few this morning. So rather than troubleshoot that, I do want to point out that these are crystal reports, as I mentioned. As you can see here, if I opened up the security user details today, but if I click on this, this is the report, one of the reports. So think of these as just kind of, they're not basic reports. They're doing what we need. But if you run one of those reports and say, hey, our auditor is asking, hey, when was the last login date, right, for all the users? When was the last log out date? We can modify these reports under here, database, user authentication, right? Last failed logon date. Last logon date, we can move this into, landscape, right? Add more fields in here. So these are definitely customizable. Account start date. Hey, when did they start? When did their account end? Right. So just pointing out, and then when you preview these, we can run this. And that was the user details. I'm going to try that report. Now that I clicked yes, I'm going to see where this actually runs. But user details, getting that message. I'm not sure. I've definitely seen that message, but let me go back to Kevin's question. So sorry that those aren't previewing, but point is we can get any and every information. I see an email later. Disregard for people's time's sake. I'll email you later. Understood. Thank you, Kevin. Let's go back over here. Let's go back to our list. Review ODBC write access, learn how this is overlooked. Security aspect can expose information. We already talked about that. I actually jumped to that when we were defining our roles and users. And here's the note that I actually just had in my head, right? Our users won't know how to do that. I'm not worried about that, right? That was from a literally client's mouth that I heard, and I just said, understood, and we moved on, right? And then the other point that I was going to make here is if you limit that ODBC too much, just to give you a heads up, that one report that comes to mind is an AR aging by job. So if you, for an AR person, employee, if you're giving them ODBC access to AR, right, but then not to the job ODBC, they run the report, Crystal would come back with an error. So we would have to open the door more to allowing ODBC access to the job report, because there's sub-reports in Crystal reports. Maybe a little bit of, you may look at it as a little bit of a headache and to, open the door for ODBC. But if you give it the blanket ODBC, my main point is they can get into any and all information if they so choose through something like Excel and reading that access. Another client I'm working with actually currently review log viewer and what is tracked, who changed the data, old and new values. If I come back over here, I think everyone has seen the log viewer on this call. With that being said, I've definitely worked with clients when I show them this log viewer, they're like, oh, never knew that was there, right? So here, if I just go into Common Tasks, Tools, Log Viewer. So it defaults to the last 30 days. But as you see here, everything that we're doing, through the system is being tracked. Here's the groups by tasks, right? Running these reports, even though we got that Upgrade Crystal report there, right? It's telling we access security. Jeremy, the username, access security. Here's Sally down here. The Sally is logged out, right? And as you come through here and double click on some of these, we didn't change any values, but within the log viewer, especially, I think when I say think, Sage did a story about a client. I believe they named the client. I don't know who it was, but it wasn't one of ours. But where they an employee changed the vendor address, right, to his or her own address, so that check went to them, right, and a disgruntled employee, what have you, right, they got the check, received the check, changed the name, changed the address, right, and then switched it back, right? So this log viewer point is you can come in here and track that information. You'll see old value, new value, right? So if I come over here, let's see if we give this a try and get this to work. But if I come over here, for example, and come up to set up vendors, and let's see here, and I'm going to change A1 electric company to Jeremy, right? Say Jeremy Warner, change the name of the vendor. And I'm going to put it, I'm not going to give you my street address, not that I don't want you, over my house or anything like that. Joke of the day, dry humor of the day, right? 123 Street. I'm going to click save, click close, come back over here to Common Tasks, Log Viewer, and vendor setup. See if we can see that here we are. So this old value, new value, right? As you see there. So this is being tracked in the background. And my point is about the Sage success story. They use the log viewer to track that information and find out, hey, who logged in, right? So another reason why to have strong passwords, not just have everyone have the same password, right? Because even going back to the strong password, we'll use Jeremy, me, right? If I logged in and I knew Sally's password because everyone has the same password, or it's an easy password to guess, or it hasn't been changed, and I know Sally always has that same password under her keyboard for the number of years, the log viewer would actually show Sally. So it's a back to the strong. It's it's a protection for the company and employees. Even if an employee says, I don't want to have to do I always forget my password, and what do you mean I have to change it every 90 days? My selling point would, hey, it's a protection to the employee, the user, and the company, right? So with all that being said, gives you the old value, and new value. An application called My Assistant. I'm working with a client right now. They wanted to bring My Assistant on board. They've been a long time user, and actually talk with the developers of My Assistant. What Sage does, as you can see here, this is written in stone, if you will, into the log viewer, right? But if I went back and I was smart enough, when I say smart enough, whether a hacker, disgruntled employee, and wanted to do that, which I'm not, I could go back into setup vendor, change the 123 street back to 46520 Highway 99, right? And change it back to A1 Electric Company. In the meantime of getting that check, sent to my house, right? My point is using My Assistant to dig into the log viewer, and it's going to run daily and alert this client, the higher ups, if you will, the controller, what have you, and push that information to them. And that's the project I'm actually working on now. You don't need My Assistant to get into the log viewer, but the My Assistant piece is going to push that information when certain setup items change. So I think that's pretty slick. All right. So with that being said, hopefully that was beneficial to you there. Operator stamp on application transaction files. I'm just going to come here, inquiry. Let's go into general ledger. Let's go to entries. Not even necessarily from a security aspect, but I always, especially when you're trying to reconcile things and find out, hey, what was done, when it was done. Why can't I click? What happened there? My screen froze here. All I was going to do there is on this transaction inquiry is add the operator stamp, so you can see. Oh, there it is. It took a minute here to catch up. I think the demo server had lost connection there for a minute. But here, if I scroll all the way down, I can go to operator stamp. Now, these operate, this is sample data 2021. So that wasn't one of us consultants. This is the sample data handed over, from Sage. So we don't see an operator stamp. But if I was to go record a transaction in GL, we would see, the Jeremy or the Sally operator stamp. So especially operator stamp and date stamp to see that information. So it's a useful tool that when I point out operator stamps, that you can add it to transactions. There's plenty of clients that are like, wow, never knew you could find out who did it. And when I say found out who did it, not in a negative, disgruntled way, but simply to ask the question, hey, well, this was done this, but then, Jeremy made the transaction, Sally reversed it, right? You can track it through to find out what happened with whether it's reconciliation or what have you. All right, so it's 11:59. Hopefully, thank you for everyone that joined. We'll get this information, like I mentioned, over to you. Sorry that the reports didn't run. The one did, but I can promise you all of them do. And with that being said, we can modify the crystal reports so you can just hand it over to the auditor if you guys are up for any security reviews from that standpoint. I'm going to go back here to see if there's any other questions, but I think the last one was Kevin saying he'll email me. So I'll conclude this security administration. Really appreciate everyone joining because that kudos to everyone on this call to at least have this meeting as, like I said at the start, a stepping stone to review your own security. And if you find anything that you have questions on, you know where to find me. Jeremy.Warner@ETHOSystems.com, and thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day.